Sounds good. Segalovich.
Segalovich.
Yes.
Segalovich. Okay, good. I am, as my students would tell you, I am the absolute worst at pronouncing names. Oh my God, as my artwork is falling down. Hi, it's nice to meet you. This month on Folk Artwork and Friends, I am delighted to talk to two of the most extraordinary people in the field of folk and outsider art. Artist Montrell Beverly and folk art historian and my former teacher, Isa Segalovich. This month, we're going to do things a little bit differently. There will be two parts. Today, on this episode, you will hear my delightful conversation with Isa. And tomorrow, instead of me telling you about an artist, I'm going to talk to one of my favorite artists and all-around great guys, Montrell. I appreciate everyone listening and all the great feedback I've received. I'm excited for this show to continue to grow and evolve, which means it may look differently from month to month. So if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on your favorite podcast listening app of your choice, and if you can please leave a lovely review, that would be great. And if you decide to leave a non-lovely review, the name of this podcast is not Folk Artwork and Friends. Now on to the show. My first guest is Isa Segalovich, an anti-authoritarian folk art historian based out of Philadelphia. I've known Isa for a few years now, and we first met when I took a really fun class with her called Folk Art and Modernism. I caught her as she's putting some final touches on her first book that she is writing, which you'll hear more about in our conversation. If you don't follow her on TikTok or Instagram, you absolutely should, as she puts out some of the best, most informative and relevant videos on all things folk art and in the contemporary art world. I don't want to talk too much more because I really enjoyed my conversation with Isa, and I hope you do too. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I want to start with a compliment for you.
Oh my goodness.
We've known each other for it's got to be almost like 3-ish years. When I took your class, your modern folk art class, that's what it was called, right? Modern folk art.
I don't remember the exact title, but it was something like that.
Yeah, but I loved it. This is not the compliment, but I did love that class because it was like historical folk art, but then we were kind of, again, talking about it in modern terms, and I got to meet some really cool people. But we did officially get to meet, it was probably almost a year ago, or maybe this time last year.
Yeah.
And not only do you have fantastic taste in art, the best taste in food. I gave you like 3 or 4 selections of places to go in Des Moines, and you picked my absolute favorite, Lucky Lotus.
So
and we had the greatest.
So good.
We had the greatest meal. You, me, and your partner Ben. It was such a great time.
Oh my God, it was such a delight. It's so fun. This is like, I've sort of introduced Ben to the world of meeting friends that I meet on the internet in real life.
Yes.
Some of the best friends now that I have today are just like random people I met on the internet. But like before a couple of years ago, that would have been like unthinkable to me. And
I know.
It's crazy. It's kind of crazy.
It is wild. I think I have probably now had more meals in the past like year or two with people I've met on the internet.
Yeah.
And like some of my best friends now are people that met on the internet. So I guess the moral of the story is like, don't listen to your parents, right? When they say like, don't talk to strangers and meet. But yeah, no, that was great. I really loved that. I think you were like just finishing up or on your way back to PA after like a whirlwind Midwestern, sort of Southeastern tour of the country, right?
Yeah, I think we were coming through Iowa. It was my first time like really getting into Iowa. Do you remember if it was, we do so many of these. Do you remember if it was in the winter or the summer?
So I was trying to think because I know it was again, it's Iowa, so I don't know exactly, but I do remember it being very cold.
Okay, so yes, we were on a huge like triangle, a tour shaped like a triangle. We went from Philadelphia down the eastern coast to South Alabama, did some hymn singing over there, came across to Galveston, Texas, spent some time over there, really crazy city. Came up through Houston Museum of Art, beautiful things, and then hit like 4 different quilt shows on the way. Went to Of Salt and Spirit, which was a Black quilt show, a show of amazing quilts by Black women, almost all outside of Gee's Bend, which was a wonderful curatorial choice that we can talk about by Charbrion Plummer, an amazing curator at the City Museum of Art. Came up, hit up the National Quilt Museum. Fantastic. Hit up the Iowa Quilt Museum.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Shout out to Winterset.
Yes. Shout out to Winterset. Met up with you, went to St. Louis, met up with our friend Chicken Joe, who like, that was my one Twitter friend I met on the tour, where Ben and I was like, I don't know what his face looks like. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
I was like, all I know is that he knows a lot about brick, and I love brick. So we did so it was like 30 of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I think we talked a lot then about the quilts. I think because you had just spent some time again, like you said, at some of those shows, and then at Gee's Bend. All of the people. I have a lot of people that lately in the past year or two that have like swung through Iowa and like, hey, let's get together. And they're always like, yeah, I just left New Mexico and now I'm heading here and there. I'm like, I'm so jealous. Like, I want to go. Because I'm usually dragging my children around most of the Midwest. We've been like, I feel like we went to Wisconsin this summer. We've done a lot of places, but you were on like a 3-week journey, and I was very jealous.
One day your kids are going to be like, they're going to benefit so much from that. Like, I think my mom dragged me to art museums every weekend. And I think a lot of the time I liked it. And a lot of the time I was like, oh, Mom, more 17th century, like, like still lives. And she's like, you're going to thank me. And now I really, really do, because my education started when I was like 1, and it's very few people get to have that.
Yeah, my kids are either going to absolutely like love, like 18th century European art, or they're going to hate it because they're like, who cares about this? Like, I've got all this funky, weird, self-taught outsider art that the rest of my family and their kids come over. They're like, what are we looking at here? My kids are just like, it's my dad's art. It's a lot of pressure having children of like, how am I going to mess them up or make them the greatest art appreciators of all time? I don't know. Could go either way. But that's a great kind of segue into you and talking about sort of your start in this world. I would say a lot of the people I've had on so far, I'm really interested in sort of like how you discover the world of folk art or self-taught art or outsider art. And you, I think, I don't know your background too terribly well. I love, though, you're sort of on Instagram, TikTok, and like the way you sort of position yourself and really the point of view and the outlook you have on all the videos in your class and the work you do is an anti-authoritarian folk art historian. And I absolutely love that. But could you tell me a little bit about sort of how you how you kind of stumbled into or got into this world and why you kind of chose that path?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I grew up, going to museums, going to like fancy museums at the Met, which I was really, really lucky to do. My mom grew up without a lot of money, but always loved art. Her parents always just, they were watching PBS and like listening to the opera and finding whatever free stuff they could get their hands on with art. And so my mom always just sort of trained me to be like, look at everything with a critical eye, love art, enjoy art, but you are not below any wall label, anything they say in the audio guide. You are fully able to criticize whatever you want at any time. And so at the same time, when I was growing up, I really wanted to be a doctor. My thought was, this is how I'm going to help the world. Is like, I'm going to be a doctor. My dad's a doctor, so I'm going to be like him. Yeah. And I thought that art was just something that rich, stodgy people did in expensive museums and white cube galleries. And something that, so in a funny way, honestly, part of what happened was that Trump won the 2016 election. Sure. And I was like, how old was I? 19 or 20. Very, very liberal, capital L liberal, like very excited about Hillary Clinton, like unapologetically. And And what happened was I was going to Haverford, which is this very, it's a school a lot of like kind of hippie kids will end up going to. It's like a serious academic school, but the kids there are like often kind of chill and very, very left wing. And so I was very much out of the group, being like liberal, capital L liberal. But what happened was that it wasn't them who really kind of taught me, but it was really my professors. So I was at the same time just lucky enough to be taking a class called Race, Crime, and Sexuality with Professor Monique Scott, and a class just called Visual Studies with Professor Christina Knight. Two incredible Black women academics who, I don't know if they planned this, but their classes really just like mesh together, talking about kind of how we've been trained to see Black art, Black creativity, and the Black body through a history of policing, segregation, slavery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I know this is like starting. It's like, I hope this isn't a boring answer. It starts really with school.
I'm enthralled. I just as somebody who's done this podcast a couple times now, I catch myself going, yeah. So I am trying to not, But I love this. This is perfect.
Cool. Okay. So
keep going, please.
So Donald Trump wins the election. It's raining in Haverford, Pennsylvania the next day. So looking back, it's actually hilarious. Like, my friend was doing a tour around campus and there are people crying, like students everywhere crying. The sky is gray. It looks like a horror movie or like a really sad, like Oscar bait movie. And literally at one point, somebody, a tour is coming down the path and they all have their umbrellas. And somebody says, "Oh my God, not another fucking tour." My friend has to be like, "I promise it's not like this every day." Anyway, the only class I forced myself to go to. We were all allowed to stay home from class that day. Classic liberal arts, snowflake, whatever. But I was like, I'll be damned if I won't go to my race, crime, and sexuality class. And I just started crying. I just left the class and I was like, and I came back, but I was just outside sobbing. Like, what is wrong? What is going on? Why? I was just having this like liberal wake up moment that a lot of white liberals like myself did, where it was like, something is wrong. The way I am looking at everything is wrong. Fast forward, I quit my a lot of other life events, quit being pre-med and switched to being an art major. And through an incredible, honestly, through a lot of started talking to as many people as I could in the art world, started talking to as many people as I could in nonprofits, and did volunteerships and internships with like 5 or 6 different places in Philly over the next 2 years. But really what happened was that I started thinking, something made me think, I think it was also one of my art classes, something made me think about ornament again. And it was something I hadn't thought about since I was 13. And my godfather gave me this book from the 1950s. It looks like it's from like the 1920s because it looks so old, but it's called, it's something, I forget exactly what it's called, Historic Styles of Ornament by Alexander Speltz. Okay. And it's an absolutely beautiful, the illustrations of this book are gorgeous. And you open it up and I was just enraptured. I was like 12 years old of this idea of ornament. And for, I guess, like 10 years, I'd forgotten about it. I was starting to do it again now that I was an art major. And so I looked up, I was like, hey, what is ornament? What the hell is this? And I came across this essay by Adolf Loos, who's a turn of the century Austrian architect. And now I'm in this race, crime, and sexuality class. I'm starting to get this idea of like, when people are being racist, but they don't fully outright say they're being racist, kind of starting to get like how to read those undertones. And I'm reading, okay, some website says, this is the essay that really started the death of ornaments, in all of architecture, design, all of these things. And it starts by talking about people from Papua New Guinea as if they are children. And, they decorate themselves with ornament because they are like a child, basically, he says. We can go into all the details of that. I'm like, what is this? What is this?
Yeah.
And I just started, I think that was when I started like kind of delving into this world of ornaments and of racism in architecture. And just how much, we talk about racism a lot in art, in fashion, but in the world of architecture, at that time, hadn't heard it be talked about as much. I interned with Brian Lee at Colocate in New Orleans, started learning more about just how ingrained racism and white supremacy is in all the buildings all around us. That led me deeper into the world of ornament. And then, honestly, I think I came to folk art though in like the pandemic. I was like sitting at home, like not doing much, kind of like on my phone. I lived by myself. It was just me and Pikachu. Mm-hmm. And
also shout out to Pikachu joining us now.
Shout out to Pikachu who is joining us now.
And I love that Pikachu's with us, but his tail is kind of hitting your microphone a little bit. I don't know.
Okay.
Pikachu's like, I want to get in on this too, but thank you. Just wanted to give you that heads.
I'm just going to squish him down.
I'm loving all of this. And it is so fascinating to me that you had this almost like lightning in a bottle, mm-hmm. these things happening. And then especially sort of like the election, in which, again, it's crazy that was 12 years ago or 10 years ago that we've been dealing with this. But that all happened. And then you sort of turned your art or your passion or your love into art of like, hey, this is how I'm going to sort of channel this. And it's fascinating. I think like somebody, if there were to be some right-wing person that hears this, they'll be like, oh, classic liberal arts school propagandizing. But seriously, and because I have a very similar story. I took a race, ethnicity, mm-hmm. and gender course. Mm-hmm. And it's like just making you a better person. Yeah. Like you do learn about these very important things, but also it's like as someone who was younger, was like, oh, yeah, like this is messed up. Or these people do have it harder than me, straight white man. And it just opens your eyes. So again, just call it propaganda, call whatever you want. But it's just like, oh, I'm just a better person now because I'm caring more deeply. You were sorry to cut you off. You were talking though about like you're discovering a folk art. You're at home, pandemic. What is this, right?
And so I think honestly, we oh my gosh, there's so many steps to this. I'm sorry. I'm like there's so much. But I think it was also, it's beginning with those classes, and then I think I just started kind of asking myself and honestly berating myself, as so many people do, how can art make the world a better place? Is it possible for art to make the world a better place? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us in the art world, whatever you want to call it, are just asking that question again and again and again and trying the same old things again and again and again, and not looking at these sort of much bigger and kind of harder questions of, well, what does it mean that art is monetized? Isn't that going to just negate anything that we can possibly do and like actually put in that art as a way of actually like, I don't know, inspiring people to make the world a better place, But I think it was so during the pandemic, I got on this, I started making videos just for myself, just for TikTok, about art history, and I made up a video about bejeweled skeletons in Central Europe, about these like Catholic saints, or they were just skeletons that were like stolen from crypts in Rome, mm-hmm. a lot of the time, but they're super cool looking, and all really encrusted with jewels in like Switzerland and Austria and some parts of Germany. And you can still see them. They're absolutely crazy.
I know what I'm doing after this.
Oh my God. I still haven't seen them. I'm obsessed with them. I would love to, but actually I'm wearing like bejeweled skeletons right now.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. And also, as my high school kids did not tell me today, even as hard as I tried, your fit is looking great. I love the skeletons, the fit. Like you look,
thank you
my
so
kids
much.
today, I'm like, how about my fit? And they're like, no, mister.
No. Oh, gosh.
All right. I'll try again tomorrow.
You need some bejeweled skeletons.
I do. Yeah.
But, found out pretty quickly that people are interested in art history. We are, so it's both one way and the other. You have artists, people, anybody is capable of being a great artist, and anybody is capable of being excited and a great learner and a great, and to take in that information like a sponge. And so I just one day like sat down and made a video about ornament and being like, do you guys really want to know why buildings are ugly these days? It's because of white supremacy and fascism, because a bunch of racists decided that ornament was something that women and children and non-white people were like just naturally attracted to, and that it was the more civilized thing to do to not have ornament.
Yeah, and no, the building is not racist itself. It's not that how could a building, a bridge be okay? Yeah, and for anybody and everybody who does not follow you, I will put a link and we will put it on there. Your TikTok, your Instagram, whatever your social media of choice that you watch your videos on, but they are fantastic, and I do learn something new every time. And I think I've told you, I will admit, I have stolen one of your videos to show to my art history class.
Amazing. Steal them all.
The Jackson Pollock, the CIA, and I love it. And like you were saying, like people do love art history. Yeah. It's just then maybe like finding that angle or that path. And again, I think the anti-authoritarian, because it is so. I mean, it is so ingrained in what we do or know, but people just don't even know it. I love that you do it, and
thank you.
They're so great. The videos are great. Everything, yeah. So, well, no, thank you. I was like, hey guys, I know this person. I took a class with this person who makes these cool videos, and my high school kids are like, all right, dude, we don't care. Like you're not cool. And I'm like, okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But so then let's fast forward, because the last time we chatted, and again, I thank you for your help you were fairly instrumental in helping me brainstorming ideas for this podcast and talking with me a couple of weeks ago or a month or two ago. But before last time we chatted, you were just getting ready to get on a plane to head to Romania and where else all did you go?
Bulgaria.
And why exactly did you choose Romania, Bulgaria? I think if you've seen the videos, we know exactly. But tell us a little bit more about your trip and why you went there.
Yeah, I am Romanian. My half of my family is my grandmother is actually Transylvanian Saxon, which is a type of German that's been in Transylvania since like the 1200s. And my grandfather was Romanian. The other part of my family is also Eastern European, but I am so fascinated by, one of the things that really got my account going in 2020, 2021 was this idea of ornament in folk art clothing. And I think that's kind of what led me to folk art in general. Was I was going to it through ornament and through embroidery, and I forget when I started becoming interested in it. My mom got me like a book on ethnic adornment or something called something like that, from like the 70s when I was like 15. But I just kind of rediscovered that love and found that there's actually something really, really helpful for deconstructing our own racism as white people, to actually learn about where our actual cultures did come from and what is the actual ethnic adornment of the cultures that our family is from. I can go much deeper into why it's like that, but it's a whole thing. But really because, I think everybody has this, especially where we live now. If, those of us that live in America, these sort of very, urbanized cities where we're just not connected to our culture in whatever way. Some of us are lucky enough to be connected with our culture, but for those of us are not, white or otherwise, it leaves this very deep hole inside of us that I think leaves us without hope. in a lot of ways because we feel alone. And so I started getting really obsessed, specifically with a lot of Eastern and Central European different types of ethnic clothing. And finding that even in Germany, there were all of these different, I'm part German as well, so I never knew that there were all of these different types of clothing that are just, they're bright and riotous, and they look like they might come from, you know, if you didn't know, you would have think, oh, that must come from some sort of quote unquote less white country, when in reality, you know, everybody does have that sort of thing. And so I became particularly interested in Bulgaria. When I went to Bulgaria, I did a term abroad in Hungary when I was in college. And every weekend I would take myself to a different city, mostly in Central and Eastern Europe, and was particularly like blown away by cities like Sofia, which are just covered in graffiti and the most beautiful kind of colorful graffiti against these, like, you know, sometimes very gray communist era Soviet bloc buildings. And I, you know, knew a little bit of it going in, but until you see like the Mohash Festival, where you have these huge, like, masked monsters in rural Hungary who are like chasing you around and are like very scary and these like incredibly grotesque, like very intricate masks. You don't like, you're like, oh, okay, there's some real serious culture here that we don't hear about every day. And that's obviously not just with Europe. That's like most places in the world. But I ended up doing my like senior thesis. I took tens of thousands of pictures, did my senior thesis, which was a sort of photo collage, glitter bomb kind of tapestry, huge like experiment where I wanted to show people that there is color in Eastern Europe. It is not just this big Soviet like gray block. And so I always had wanted to go back to Bulgaria. I was there for like 3 days. And absolutely adored it. I was like, I need to see every single part of this country. And also, I had just been in Romania also for a few days. Beautiful, just all these gorgeous mountains. I was like, I need to come back here too. And so a couple months ago, my dream came true, essentially. And me and my fiance and our friend, Elena Kanagi-Laux, and her husband, Brooke, we did a 3-week whirlwind tour throughout all of Bulgaria and Romania. Elena is a lace historian. Incredible. Everybody should follow her.
Really
absolutely amazing, incredible history of lace and women's work and all of these things. And so was incredibly lucky to go with her because she knows all of these intricate histories of textiles and everything. So we did everything. We ate a lot of food. We went to monasteries, beautiful, incredibly, you know, all of these facades. We met a lot of cats. We went to the Mary Cemetery, of course. We saw lots of mountains. I could talk about it forever, but it was, of course, it was magical.
That sound means somebody said cemetery, which means we need to take a quick pause for a moment to talk about the Mary Cemetery. It is a place that I have never been, but Isa is going to tell us a little bit more about it, including her visit shortly. So I just wanted to take a quick moment to give a shout out to cemeteries in general. I love cemeteries. During the pandemic, we went to cemeteries quite often. They were peaceful, they were calm, they were beautiful, full of history. Nobody was there. I love going to cemeteries. I once sat next to a guy in a bar, and he was from Boston. And I asked him, I've never been to Boston. Where should I go? And please don't give me any touristy places. Where should I go in Boston? Somewhere like a cemetery. He looked at me. He said, that's an interesting question. Not sure if he was being just polite or thought I was very, very strange. He finished his meal. I forget what he said. He left. And that was that. That is how much I love cemeteries. For those of you watching on YouTube, I'm going to play some scenes from the Mary Cemetery while I regale a bit about the Mary Cemetery. And if you're just listening, close your eyes and picture the most beautiful cemetery in the world. Stan Ioan Putras was born in Săpânța in 1908. For over 40 years, he carved some of the most iconic crosses with some of the most clever poems for those seeking their final resting place in this small Romanian village. At the age of 14, he had already begun carving crosses for another local cemetery. 10 years later, Putras had begun carving what would become the over 800 wooden crosses that tell the life stories, sometimes dirty little secrets, and final moments of the people who lay there. Not only would they include a poem or limerick, his work often included in the image the way in which the individual had died, like soldiers being beheaded or a townsperson being hit by a truck. Straight to the point, and not what you would typically see at a cemetery in your local neighborhood, these humorous works of art, folk art masterpieces, were more than meets the eye, as Putras developed his own symbolism in each of these brightly colored works. Per Atlas Obscura, green represented life, yellow represented fertility, red for the passion, black for death. The colors were always set against a deep blue known as Săpânța blue, which Putras believed represented hope, freedom, and the sky. Other symbolism, the white doves for the soul, a blackbird to represent a tragic or suspicious death, worked their way onto the crosses, as did Putras' dark sense of humor. It wasn't until the near end of his life, in the early 1970s, that the Mary Cemetery was discovered by foreigners. A French journalist came to visit, and soon word quickly spread. Soon after Stan Ioan Putras died in 1977, his house was converted to a memorial museum. His cross was painted by two of his own apprentices, and people started flocking all over to this Romanian village to be reminded about the absurdity of life and that sometimes death can be both a humorous and a beautiful thing. Stay tuned for Isa's story about her visit to the Mary Cemetery. Now back to the show. That's fantastic. One quick thing that kind of popped in my mind when we were talking about this, like you currently live in Philadelphia, and it seems like there is some of that culture though in Philly, right? Like, remind me of the parade that you go to every year. That I feel like I live vicariously through your Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, that parade looks amazing. And I've only been to Philadelphia twice, and it was for the pen relays. And all I did was go to the pen relays and then one bar and one hotel. But I loved it. I just wish I could have spent more time there. But it seems like there is a very rich cultural stuff in Philly. So is that like maybe one reason why you kind of enjoy being there?
Oh, yeah.
You got all the culture.
Definitely what brought me to Philly. I was first obsessed with Philly because of the architecture, because of going back to the early days of Philadelphia. This is a slightly over-romanticized story, but it's kind of true, that the Quakers really did want to have a sort of equitable city, actually equality in some way in their city and the way they built their architecture. So a lot of the reason that we have these sort of very regular, everybody gets a small plot of land, and this is the early days, obviously not today, sadly. So everybody gets a small rectangular plot of land, and you can build your little row house there. And so we have all of these sort of, from a distance, they look like identical rectangular brick houses that we call row homes. When you get up close to them, you can see that every single one is basically unique. It has its own absolutely magnificent crafted ornamentation in the brick, the cornices, and also in the wrought iron and the glass on the doorway. And so I just became obsessed with those. We have a lot I was living in West Philly. Some of them really look like castles, but they are small. Yeah. And lots of fascinating history there. But then became, the more I went around Philly, found that this is my mom is from Queens, which is the most diverse neighborhood in the world. Philadelphia, there are parts of Philadelphia that really feel like that, where it is so incredibly diverse. We live in South Philly, which is known for like rocky, like old Italian, old Irish, and that is there, and that is awesome because there is, we go to an Albanian cafe once a week. That's like our second living room now. If I don't go for like more than a month, they get mad at me. They're like, "Where have you been?"
Texting you, "Where are you?
Where are you?" They're like worried about it. It's wonderful. But you can just the other like so the mummers comes. Let me just say, okay, so depending on the weekend, I feel like there's always a different thing going on. We had a Korean festival a couple of weeks ago with like a Korean traditional clothing like fashion show. You come on Chinese New Year and there's this incredible, like amazing lion dance parade every year. You go to, it's going to be Day of the Dead in a couple of weeks. From when we're recording, and all like the whole neighborhood's going to be partying. You have all 9th Street Market is just a just absolute cultural immersion in Italian and Mexican culture. Of course, you have like Odunde Festival, which is like super, super old African festival that is here in Philly. And the Mummers, which is a super crazy, really a folk parade. It's known as a folk parade. Some people call it the oldest non-Indigenous folk parade in the United States.
Okay.
It goes back to, I want to say like the early 1800s. And it's very racist in its origin. Unfortunately, sometimes quite racist in its practice today.
Sure.
And I'm actually, for me, it becomes this like, really like I love to chew on something that's complicated, like complicated in all of its sort of political implications. But what really ends up happening, and now they've obviously banned blackface. Unfortunately, there are some costumes that still come out that are just still like pretty offensive and difficult to deal with, and that's a whole conversation. But what ends up happening is that you have all of these South Philly guys who basically once a year get together and use all of their skills as like carpenters and contractors. Like I'm not even kidding about this. And make floats and make these incredible costumes. Most of them are dressed in dresses. It's called the Wench Brigades. And it's tens of thousands of people are on a parade that they get up at midnight, some of them, and start drinking. Then it goes through midnight the next day. The parade starts at like 7 a.m. with a very Carnival-esque performance. Absolutely enormous floats. They can be like 3 car lengths wide and back. Like the floats, costumes, like enormous costumes. You have your marching bands, you have your political skits, which can be fascinating. Sometimes really good, sometimes a little things I wouldn't agree necessarily. But what I do love, the overall feeling of the Mummers Parade is something incredible that we really almost never see, I think, in anywhere else that you could call like white America, which is people getting together and making art. And it is a ridiculous, and every year it does become more diverse. Every year it becomes honestly more fun for that reason, of course. And you go, basically what you want to do is you come, there's a lot of different ways to do the Mummers Parade. I can do a whole tutorial, but you go, these costumes, you have to look up the word mummers. If anybody is listening and you don't see any pictures, look up the words Mummers Philadelphia, because it's kind of hard to describe. It's a lot of feathers, a lot of sequins, and it's a lot of dudes like really like hard, like just like guys named Bill dressed in dresses and makeup sometimes and glitter. And it's this moment where they can just like dress up and have fun. And everybody gets drunk. Everybody hugs at the end of the day. There's people throwing up. There's people peeing. It's gross. It's smelly. But it is really like a moment that a lot of Philly, and I hope there is a way to make it so much better, because it could be so much more amazing, honestly, to bring all of Philadelphia together. But it's a really magical thing that I wouldn't miss for the world every January 1st.
Yeah, I've been to Philly twice. I know nothing. I couldn't remember what it was, but I do remember
It's
you
like a
going
Mardi Gras.
and like, yeah. And I love that. I think like we need more of that, like more of these events that are bringing people together through art, preferably. But we just need more, because I guarantee you, those guys, they look forward, like.
Oh, when
they're not building, when they're not making, they're looking forward to it. Yeah, all the time. And I think luckily, growing up in smallish town Iowa, there wasn't a lot of that. Luckily, I think living in Des Moines now, there is more. It does seem like throughout the summer, there's always some World Food Festival or some sort of thing going on, and it's just the greatest. Like it's always, it's so fantastic. Two quick things that I want to get to before I want to hear about what we've been talking about this whole time, and we'll get to the ornament and sort of what you've been busy working on. I should thank you for taking your time away from. I feel like you've been working very hard on the surprise that people know what you've been working on. We'll get to it. But two quick questions. What was the greatest thing about the Mary Cemetery?
Oh my God. So the Mary Cemetery is, for those of you that don't know, it is like, I feel so lucky right now. It's sort of like a mecca for people like Adam and me who are just obsessed with like what is generally, art environments where
people are like, let's go to Paris, let's go to the Louvre. And I'm like, no, I want to go to Romania for the Mary Cemetery. I want to go
to a graveyard in Romania.
Exactly.
So it is. The graves this is from an area in northern Romania where a lot of things are made out of wood, very, very dense forests, very good wood, old growth wood. And so you have a lot of beautiful wood carving traditions. A lot of the graves in this area are, wood chipped. They're made out of basically like a cross shape, but these beautiful, intricate ornamental designs that are carved into them. And about 100 years ago, this guy named Stan, I'm sorry if I pronounced his name wrong a little bit, Stan Jon Patrash, he decided to start painting them in these sort of riotous colors and start telling people's life stories on each individual grave. So they are painted generally bright blue, yellow, green, red. They have these beautiful, of course, ornamental patterns down the sides and the middle, but each one is carved with a picture of that person in their life. So often it is their job of what was their, if they were a spinner, if they spun wool, if they like to sing with other people, or, are they a farmer? Sometimes it was just their favorite thing to do. So you have people who are just drinking with their friends. And then sometimes it's how they died. So it's like you see, he's this like,
I believe there's one about like the car crash that the person,
There's like a couple car crashes where he's like, it's like, that is the yellow taxi that ran over this person. And then each one has a poem written on below it, which is in a local dialect. So if you try to like use Google Translate to translate them, it's not going to work because it's in like a very specific local Romanian dialect. These like they're like poems. They kind of read like haikus. But they're like, one of them goes, "Underneath this heavy cross lies my poor mother-in-law. Try not to wake her up, for if she comes back home, she'll bite my head off." So, and they're often with these like very jokey sort of things. And so what a lot of people miss, if you go to the Mary Cemetery, it's also lots of shops. You can get like clothing and all these great things around there. If you go around the corner, there is a house museum for Stan Jon Patrash, which is where he lived. You get to see his studio, this crazy, basically his bedroom that he obviously also just filled with pieces of art and decorated and painted every single corner of the wall. It's crazy. But started talking with the woman there, and it turns out she is the wife of the man who now has inherited the project of making these grave markers. And so she, her name is Anna Marie, and she, we started talking for a while, and then she showed me technically this was my favorite part because I love seeing just like work in progress. And she brought me back to see her husband working, and he was in the middle of carving a new piece of wood. We got to meet her mother, his mother, who paints everyone individually. They have dogs, their kids running around, and a new group of kittens that we got to meet at the same time. So a mama cat awesome. with her litter. It was really wonderful. But yeah, so basically, Patriarch began making these graves, taught the guy who's making them now is the son of the best apprentice of the original guy.
Oh.
And so basically just took this up. It's much more common in Romania. Folk culture is very, very alive in Romania. And it is like very much as a part of everyday people's lives. And one of the crazy things about the Mary Cemetery, and I didn't notice when I went there, I was like taking a selfie. I was like, oh, I shouldn't smile because it's like very serious cemetery. It's like, no, this is a happy place.
Yeah.
Like this is like specifically, and she was telling us, this is crazy, but she was telling us the reason they believe that they do this is because in ancient Dacia, so this is like the ancient Roman version of the Romanians, they were like very, very rich, powerful empire that for a long time the Romans couldn't conquer because they had so much gold and they were really rich and actually pretty powerful. And according to her, the Dacians believed that death was freedom. You know, like a lot of, some Christians today, but like in a very intense way. It was like, no, life is suffering and death is freedom. And for a lot of Romanians today, it continues that way. Mm-hmm. And so the Mary Cemetery is literally a place to like laugh and like, we're glad that person is dead in a way, because I'm not even exaggerating, because they get to be free from life because life is suffering. And honestly, if you look at Romanian history especially from the last 100 years, I get it. I mean, like it just sucks. Like things are a little bit less shitty now than they used to be, but like, man, Romania's been through it. So you kind of get it. Of course, people are sad and people die, but like I'll tell you but I do get it where it's like from a family, like my grandmother has had her grave plot picked out and paid for since she was in her 20s.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it's like people prepare for death like their entire lives.
Yeah.
So it's like Mary Cemetery. It's like no other place in the world, but it's also intensely Romanian.
It's the pictures are amazing. The colors, everything about it is just the absolute greatest.
It's so cool.
I'm so cool. Happy for you that you got to go there and to hear about it and to see the work in progress, like you said. I mean, I think that's one of the best places about like these type of places is that you're gonna more than likely see the person who like made it or their brother or cousin or whoever, their wife, and to hear those firsthand accounts about that. So that's awesome. I'm so excited that you got to go there. Before we close things out here, I do want to hear about, we've been talking about ornaments. Everyone's like so suspenseful now. Like, what is it gonna be? But the Romania of the Midwest, no, this doesn't work. Wisconsin, you went to Wisconsin. You wrote about 5 roadside attractions. I've been to most all of them. I want to hear though what your favorite is. Of the 5 that you went to, Dickeyville Grotto, Wagner Grotto, the Painted Forest. Which one is your favorite? Oh
my gosh. Okay, so I will say actually the Dickeyville Grotto was my favorite. To be honest,
it's hard, despite the Columbus, the great Columbus statue.
Yeah,
it's truly spectacular. Yeah,
you just can't beat it. They were all amazing in their different ways. But the Dickeyville Grotto, you walk into that first shrine, and this is built by Father Vernius. When did he build it? In the 1920s.
Yeah.
He's a German-born Catholic priest. And what is so fascinating about these grottos is, this is a German or a Central European tradition, Catholic tradition. It's kind of like the skeletons I was talking about, encrusting all of like these walls and all these grottos, with all these like waterways with shells, with precious stones or like semi-precious stones.
Yeah.
And so you have a bunch of, he's one of the earlier artists, like figures who come over as immigrants and build a new version of this. They kind of I think they just kind of inject their Americanness into it,
Sure,
like,
yeah.
and Wisconsin-ness into it, which is just very
Yes.
very like no holds bar. Like, I'm not trying to impress some big like
Yeah.
Catholic, like I'm not trying to impress the diocese over here. I'm doing this for me and my people just for fun. And it is, I would love to know if anybody can discount this, but I'm going to keep saying it's true because I haven't been able to disprove it. It is worth $4.3 million, all of the items there.
Sure.
It is, according to one study, is the largest collection of semi-precious stones, minerals, and petrified materials in the world. That is crazy. It's in Dickeyville, Wisconsin, at the Dickeyville Grotto, next to the church. You go downstairs, there's a bargain basement, amazing thrift store. We came back with a bunch of beer glasses we got for 25 cents each.
Yep.
Fabulous stuff. And you walk into that first shrine and you are just like in this literally just this magical cavern of seashells, and you smell the ocean, which is so many thousands of miles away.
Yeah.
And it's just magic. And it's just close. Magical. It's not close. It's just, and I mean, the other thing that I just found so fascinating about it, my grandparents were refugees from Romania and also semi-German immigrants at the same time. And I kind of knew them as, and still, know my grandmother this way, as being stuck in between. You are never, they never really assimilated. They never really got that chance. They also didn't want to, but they did. You're in this in-between place where you're not really an American and you're not an American. And what was so fascinating is a lot of people don't know that obviously German people in America were not like this today, but there was a lot of anti-German sentiment at that time.
Sure.
And even more anti-Catholic sentiment. Like Catholics, before JFK, all these, people thought that they were anti-American because they answered to the Pope, And
Sure.
so what Father Verdius wanted to show was that, no, I am German. That's true. I am Catholic, but I'm also an American. And did he really care that much about Christopher Columbus? I don't think so. Like, I obviously hate the whole Columbus thing.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting about it is that, like, I don't morally agree with it, but what I find fascinating is that it's this very strong political statement of, yes, I am a Catholic and I am an American. And you can't prove me wrong. And I'm going to work for decades on this crazy, crazy grotto that you're not going to see anywhere else in the world to prove that to you. And it's unlike anywhere else. It's a magical place. And I'll just give a special shout out to Ernest Huppen's Painted Forest, because that one often gets, among all the grottos, they're very glittery. I love glitter. That one also, like, it's just, don't miss it. Like, people miss that one a lot, and it's really worth going to. It doesn't look like a lot from outside, but like, yeah.
I know I have a very big, strong Midwest bias, and I talk to people in LA, New York, East Coast, West, whatever. But like, I'm not joking when I say, like, spend a week and drive around Wisconsin, and you will see some of the most incredible, amazing roadside attractions, artwork. You've got the Kohler Museum in Sheboygan, which I finally got to go to. It was great. It's incredible. And I mean, again, to your point about Dickeyville, and there's a couple, and I don't know if this is if it's Dickeyville or there's one in West Bend, Iowa, that Father Paul Duberstein, I believe is how you say it. He helped, or he did a couple throughout. But like, one of the things that always blew my mind, because they would get like people to haul them through trains, trucks, whatever, like rocks and minerals from Mexico, down in Brazil, and all over. And I think it might be in West Bend, but there also are stalactites and stalagmites from Carlsbad Cavern before it was a national park or whatever. Like, it's wild, the history. And the ornament, again, you could walk through there. The colors are still as vibrant as ever. You see broken plates. You see coffee mugs that have shattered and that are encrusted in these grottos. I've been to Dickeyville a handful of times now, and it never gets old. Like, it's always the best. that I think is a fairly decent segue to you are easily the top 3 coolest people I've ever had dinner with, because you're writing a book, which is amazing. And I think you're getting either close to being finished or almost finished. But can you tell us a little bit about this book that you're writing?
Yeah. So the book is called Ornament Now. It is an exhortation. It is a call for ornaments to be on our buildings again and why we should have it. But more than that, it is looking through ornament to think about art and architecture in general and why and how we can sort of bring life back and honestly equality back to the creative things that we make. It is about ornament on buildings, basically, and why ornament has been erased from architecture starting in in the early 1900s with Otto Flo's Ornament and Crime. And we're still going through it now in most ways. And actually we're definitely still going through it now, despite what some people will say. And so what I've at this point, at the moment I'm speaking to you, I've handed in 3/4 of it for the first. So what you're going to see in this book is the first section is going to be the kind of examples of ornamental practices from all around the world. So you're going to have kolam, which is Tamil women in South India that get up every morning and draw these incredibly intricate, beautiful designs in front of their houses to welcome in the goddess Lakshmi every single morning. You're going to see camels in Pakistan that get shaved in these really, really ornamental designs. You're going to see tiebele in in Burkina Faso, which is a 16th century fortress-like village where women paint these beautiful sort of zigzaggy designs all over their houses. So really talking about the idea that when people say, oh, why aren't buildings beautiful anymore? And what they really mean is, why don't they look neoclassical or like Greek anymore? And then getting to the deeper questions like, okay, so you want that ornament, but you know that there's more ornamental architecture all over the world than just from Greece and Rome. And that's both for the left and the right wing architects, because you have the left wing architects saying, oh, well, if you want Greek and Roman architecture, that means that you're a fascist because the Nazis liked that. And of course, Donald Trump is a fascist and he does like that. So there are a bunch of people like that. But middle 2 sections are going to break down why on either side of this argument, nobody is right. There's a much deeper, much more complicated, much ickier and darker history about the shedding of ornaments that really goes back to, again, fascism and white supremacy. And so we're going to talk about Le Corbusier as a fascist and why his kind of minimalist way of looking at things was totally tied into his authoritarian right-wing anti-Semitic ass politics. We're going to be talking about Philip Johnson, who was the head of the MoMA architecture department, who was a Nazi, who basically, in his words, basically fathered all of the great architects or starchitects of today, like Rem Koolhaas and like all of these guys. He was like their mentor to become a great, these powerful architects that are now working in New York and Abu Dhabi and Riyadh and places like that. So then we'll talk about neoliberalism and architecture, the erasure of ornament, and really how this makes us walk around the street, it's how it translates to us walking around the street and feeling alone. And the more people feel alone, the more they join up with fascist movements and other authoritarian movements. But it also talks about kind of the disinvestment of craft and how, more and more people are either out of work as construction workers or as craftspeople, as masons, or they're dying on the job. The conditions are so horrible. You have tens of thousands of people literally dying to create things like the Line in Saudi Arabia. And so that is, and so how all of those things are basically interconnected with neoliberalism and just staggering inequality around the world. And Then the fourth section is going to be a celebration of the artists and architects and designers who are pushing back. So people like Elena who study lace, people like Francis Carré, incredible designer, often inspired by many West African traditional designs. So folks like that who are doing the work to sort of push back against what is basically what Raymond Williams called the new conformists of the avant-garde. People who say that they are avant-garde, they're pushing against, but they're really, establishing their own kind of orthodoxy that is just draining the creativity and life from the world. So how can we create buildings that make people feel like they belong when they walk in, that are built in a way that is sustainable for the earth and sustainable for the humans that make them, and gives everybody an opportunity to have a place to live at the very least.
Yeah. That would be good too. Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
So, and it's like all the stuff that we've been talking about today, it's a bigger question of how can we recognize that every human being has the potential for genius. And more than that, every community, every co-creative community has an inherent genius to them. And that can be found in every single part of the world.
That's fantastic. Well, I mean, it's so well said. And like, I think, again, if people have enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, and your videos, and back to work in progress, I'm not pointing at you, sorry. I'm pointing at your, as you coined it, your murder wall back there. Your work in progress as you're studying for this. So I know it's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait to read that. So I can't thank you enough for joining me today. Your videos are fantastic. They've helped me, I think, be a better art history teacher. Again, like no joke, not just trying to like butter you up here, but to look at things differently and think about those bigger, larger questions. So I can't recommend them enough. And hopefully you can maybe join us again next year when your book comes out. And talk a little bit more, because I could talk to you for hours, and I feel like we just scratched the surface. So, Isa, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I've been a huge fan of your Instagram page for years. So seriously, keep doing the good work. I'm always so glad. Oh, yes, he's sharing that piece of folk art. I can share it with everybody. That makes me so glad. So
cool. Thank you. And any time that I put out something and I get some comments or some smiley faces or a thumbs up for you, I'm always like, yes, I did my old teacher proud. And normally it's a quilt. It's usually a quilt from like the South somewhere, and I'm like, yes, I've got her with this one. So,
I do love you. People know you can always get me with a quilt. Yeah,
I know you. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. What a incredible conversation. Again, I could talk to Isa for hours, probably. I hope she does another whirlwind tour through Iowa sometime soon, so we can go back to Lucky Lotus and get some delicious food. But I can't thank her enough for taking some time out of her very busy schedule. Again, as mentioned, she is just finishing up a book. You can likely pre-order it, if not now, as you're listening to this, very, very, very soon. We'll make an announcement about that, put that in the podcast description and YouTube show notes. So keep an eye out for that. That book, titled Ornament Now, will be out sometime towards the end of 2026. Holy cow, it's almost 2026. So thank you. This was part one, my conversation with Isa Segalovich. If you aren't also, please do follow her on Instagram, TikTok. Just truly some great content, different ways of looking at art, like mentioned, that you don't normally think about. Really makes you think, and you'll learn something new. You can follow Isa at interstellar_Isa Beller. We'll put that up so you can all see that. But please do follow her. Her videos are the best. So this was part one of part two of two parts for the November Folk Artwork and Friends episode, coming out tomorrow. Please stay tuned for my conversation. Normally, I kind of talk about an artist, but I'm very, very delighted and excited to be talking to one of my favorite artists. Again, such a great dude who I've gotten to spend dinners with as well and meet and hang out with on multiple occasions, Montrell Beverly. So stay tuned for that conversation coming out tomorrow. Thanks again to everybody for listening, for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, your feedback, leave a review, all that jazz. I really enjoy doing this, and I hope that you enjoy hearing these conversations as well. Until next time. And thank you to Jason Brown for the Folk Artwork and Friends theme song and all the interstitials. So many great little ditties that he put together for me. I can't thank him enough. Go check out more original music from Jason at sapwood.bandcamp.com. Buy an album. Support folk musicians like Jason. Thank you again, friend. Can't thank you enough. You are the best.